On a surface operation somewhere around the state. We're just so appreciative of what you do. You know, we're all part of the coal economy, the coal family here, whether we're with the association, state government, I want to emphasize that. We've got a couple local delegates, might have the Speaker of the West Virginia House of Delegates join us here shortly. We are part of the coal family, the coal economy. We're in this together. But for you guys that actually extract a little bit of that, those black diamonds, we're just so appreciative of what you do. It's because of what you do that affords the rest of us the liberties and freedoms and this extraordinary quality of life that we enjoy, principally due to having available to us 24/7 this low-cost household energy that not only provides us with what all we have and do, but has led to the electrification of this great country that we have. We've had a number and a series of regional coal forums throughout the year, trying to get everybody on the same page, trying to get everybody to share the same understanding of everything that's going on. And it just so happened that when the OSM proposed this rule, we disrupted our schedule, thought it would be important to focus on this issue here this afternoon. One, because there's just so much confusion, misunderstandings about this rule, what it does, what it purportedly does. And but the fact of the matter is, it's just more of the same. It's just another initiative that we have fielded, that we have experienced over the past 6 or 7 years now, that's come out of this administration with no other purpose but to cause coal more difficulty, to try to raise the price of coal with Central App, and to try to essentially eradicate coal from our electric grid and coal-fired utilities as well. I don't think there's any question about that. Make no mistake, while there's a lot of confusion over the rule, there's no confusion what the end game is or what the objective is of this administration. You know, those of us that's been around the industry, we've always had challenges. We've always withstood mild weather patterns. Weak economies have come and gone, but we've never, ever, ever had a president using every single resource available to him to cause harm and havoc to this industry. And again, while there's confusion over this rule, we know exactly what the end game is. It is more of the same, and it couldn't come at a worse time. You know, we have over 8,000 miners that are unemployed here in West Virginia. You throw in the indirect jobs, it's upwards of 30,000 West Virginians that are out of work or have been notified that they'll be out of work by year's end. Make matters worse, we have 6 in-state coal-fired utilities, representing a total of 18 coal-fired electric generating units that have closed or have announced their closure by year's end. So again, the end game, the target's clearly Central App. It's clearly to accelerate the transition of coal to renewables and natural gas and everything else. So we wanted to host this meeting here today, wanted to talk a little bit about the rule, wanted to also provide a means to try to get a little larger crowd out. One of the things that we want you to leave here with today is everybody's just going to have to do more. You know, those of us that, live within the government arena and fight the regulatory and legislative issues day in and day out, us included, we're going to all have to do a little more. You know, the time's called for the remaining few of us that are still around, for everybody to do a little more, for everybody to be pulling on that rope at the same time. You know, after all, our government's coming at us, they were coming at us by land and air, now they're coming by land, air. And when you look at this rule here today, they're also coming by sea. We have rightness of issue on our side. I don't want to preach to you all night here. We got a lot of things going on. We may have to call an audible or two, but again, we wanted to use this as a staging area. But we do have rightness of issue on our side. And as we well know, they cannot do it alone and can't do it without us. So we're just going to have to fight a little harder. We're going to have to all become a little more united, a little more cohesive. We're going to have to ask our elected officials to make bolder decisions, to take bolder actions that causes everybody a little discomfort. And I think it's also important to note we have some really well-intended, solid public officials that are working on our behalf. They're part of our team. People like Joe Statler from Morgantown. Joe, raise your arm. Where's Ruby Phillips? Delegate Ruby Phillips, Logan, in the back. Are there other elected officials here? Who's with you, Mike? Is that Kevin? Kevin Craig, Huntington, Cabell County. Kevin recently announced his resignation from state politics, but he's there day in, day out. You know, we also have a pretty good congressional team. You know, Senators Capito and Manchin on energy do a great job. We have 3 congressional representatives. Alex Mooney, who on this particular issue got a bill out of committee just last week that goes a long way towards preserving the pre-OSM proposed rule nature and status of this issue. Fred Joseph is here on behalf of Alex Mooney. David McKinley, northern part of the state. Evan Jenkins, southern part of the state. Really provide you know, what I've characterized before as a royal straight flush when you add in our legislative leadership and Governor Earl Ray Tomlin. Because they have, you know, they've done every single thing we've asked. They've done a lot of things we haven't asked, all of which is intended to push back, and put up additional resistance for the initiatives and actions that come out of this administration. A guy that's been on point with us throughout the 7 years or 6.5 years of this administration, and for 30+ years before this administration took place, Bill Rainey, president of the West Virginia Coal Association. Bill's going to say a couple additional remarks here to you. But thank you so much for coming out.
Thanks, Chris. Let me say thanks to all you guys. I tell you, you always worry as to how many people are going to show up, and everybody stepped up. And I've talked to 2 or 3 that have been to 2 other hearings during the course of the last 2 or 3 weeks, and they've had them in Lexington and Big Stone Gap and St. Charles, Missouri, and other places. But it's so critically important that we have a good showing here tonight. We have no idea how many of the Sierra Club and the opponents to this coal industry are going to show up, but I guarantee you we will outnumber them. And that's critical, because I'm telling you guys and ladies, you all are the best coal miners in the world, and we say that everywhere we go. You're mining under the most difficult conditions of regulatory, weather, geology, and topography of any place in this world, and you and the managers of our mines across this state are bringing coal out of the ground that nobody else could. And we want to preserve that. Jason's going to talk about the specifics of this rule, and it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible, because what happens, among all the other things that it prohibits us from doing, and that's renewing permits and getting new permits, but is the fact that it's going to sterilize a whole bunch of reserves that are in front of our active underground mines. And we have got to stop this rule. Chris said that Congressman Mooney's got a law that came out of committee that is going to go a long way in that path, and our congressional delegation, McKinley and Jenkins, have helped him get there, and Capito and Manchin are as well. We're going to feed you. About 4 o'clock, they're going to bring some barbecues in here. We want your belly full, and we want you to be happy. We're going to go over here and try to sign up and get on the list to speak. And you'll hear a lot of the same things, and you'll hear a lot of opposition to these rules, as it should be. But I can't tell you, as Chris said, he introduced all the elected delegates, and we appreciate them being here so much. But really, we appreciate you all that came out of the mines, came out of the shops, came out of the petroleum distributors, that help us mine coal every day. We absolutely could not do it without you all. And that is so critical. And Chris tells me that John Schott came in. Oh, right, John Schott. He's House Judiciary Chairman from down in Mercer County. And John is a great friend of the industry, so we appreciate him. Ruby's pointing to somebody, and hell, I can't, huh?
Talk to me.
Oh, Joe Stapp. Yeah, we get him introduced. Hell, we get him introduced 2 or 3 times before it's over with. So he's an old coal miner from up in Morgantown, and all these guys are great friends of ours. Roger Horton is back here at the back table, or he was. I don't know where Roger is. He's right here at this back table with the Citizens for Coal, and I tell you, he's a tireless worker too. Not going to belabor the point. We're going to feed you. We're going to have refreshments. You can come back in here anytime you want to rest or do whatever. They're going to open that speaking place up over there, as we understand it, 20 minutes till 6. We're going to go over there and start trying to get people in line, and so we can reserve some places to speak, and so we can get ahead of some of the opponents perhaps. But let me tell you how much I love you guys and ladies, and I appreciate you being here, because I'm telling you, without it, we would never make it, and we've got to do everything we can to make sure this rule does not go into effect. So God bless you. Thank you.
Nice job, Bill. Thank you, thank you. Again, we're not going to be here at the podium the entire time. I wanted to just provide a quick organizational meeting here before we all go in towards the hearing room. Also, just wanted to provide a staging area. You know, this room's going to remain intact. You want to get off your feet, want some place for your lady friend to sit, or whatever you want to do. This room will be available. We do want Jason Bostic, Vice President for the Coal Association, to come forward, wanting to talk a little bit about the rule. He has 7 or 8 slides he's going to go over briefly. You have a couple, 3 documents before you. You have a program here for this evening. You have within the program an agenda, a welcome letter. In the middle you have the rule summary from OSM. You also have a letter. We would ask everybody that speaks tonight, once they hit the buzzer and say your time is up, we want you to ask for an extension of the rule. You know, they've been 6+ years fooling with this thing, or 5+ years, Jason, and give us just a couple of weeks to look at it. It's thousands of pages long. So, and this is a letter. We would ask for everybody, for every company, for every group to send a copy of this letter, officially making it part of the record, asking for an extension. On the clear back, there is a draft comment that you're welcome to use verbatim. And here this evening, during the taking of the oral testimony, and if you want to sign this and send it to OSM following tonight's hearing as it is, or if you want to doctor it up a little bit, you want to take a sentence out, add your own. It's intended to be a framework, a sample, but feel free to use it exactly as is. There's also a single sheet that has about maybe a dozen talking points about the rule. And if someone from the media would stop you and try to get a comment, boy, feel free, just put that in your back pocket and pull it out. You can start on comment or talking point 1, or start on number 12 and work in the opposite direction. And then there's a set of comments also before you. I think there's 7 or 8 individual comments for you just to scan, use verbatim if you want. If you want to use it as just a framework to develop your own, please do so. At this time, I'm going to ask Jason to come forward. He has just a brief PowerPoint. As Bill indicated, we're going to serve barbecue and some food over here. Everybody's welcome to that. And again, we just appreciate everybody taking the time to join us here this afternoon. Jason?
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. And folks, let me echo what Bill and Chris have already said about it, how great it is to see so many coal miners out, and how very important it is that every one of you all go to the public hearing so that OSM understands that it's you that's the voice of the coal fields of West Virginia. It's not some transplant from the Sierra Club that got tired of living in Maine and decided to go to Logan County and buy a house. Folks, I'm going to try to be very quickly with this. Mallory, if I could impose upon you to change the slides for me, since I didn't bother to get it quicker. You can go to the first one. You all heard this? How about if I get closer? Is that any better? All right. I'll try to stay closer. When I'm hunched over like this, on purpose. Guys, as both Bill and Chris said, this is an absolute monster of a rule. There are roughly 6,000 pages between the rule and the supporting documentation. If you take the reference studies that OSM relies on to change these rules, you're looking at about 12,000 pages. It changes or revises just about every single sentence in the federal surface mining and underground mining regulations. An estimated about 600 to 700 provisions have been changed, added to, modified, or removed. As Chris mentioned, the written comment period ends on the 26th of October, and the written hearing, of course, starts, or the public hearing is, of course, tonight. Mallory, we'll go to the next one. So I think before we start a discussion of this, I think what we need to do is back up and ask ourselves why this is needed. Why does OSM think that they need to revise a rule that's been in place for about 38 years and has quite frankly worked very effectively? What you have heard from them so far is that we, OSM, and their counterparts in the federal government have this new groundbreaking science, that there are EPA studies that indicate a massive environmental change from coal mining occurring in this country. OSM is also going to tell you probably tonight, and through their press releases that you've already read in the newspaper, and I'm sure the Charleston Gazette's going to tell you, that this is just about surface mining that occurs in central Appalachia and southern West Virginia and involves the construction of valley fills. And these are 30-year-old regulations that need to be updated because they haven't ever been changed. Folks, that's about as close to a lie as you can come when you're talking about government regulations. They are truly trying to mess with the public's mind. Mallory, if you'll go to the next slide. As far as new information, my response to that is what new information? For years, for decades, we know that man can't exist on this planet without having some kind of impact on the environment that's around it. The worst, the absolute worst thing that EPA and their other counterparts within this administration can point to with respect to coal mining is a change in the benthic population in streams below coal operations. When I say by benthics, I'm talking about the small insects, the mayflies and the mosquitoes and the things that you would swat away if you were out on the stream trying to fish. That's all they can point to. We're not talking about wiping the insects out. They just change a little bit. The composition of the community shifts. We're not wiping them out. They're not going extinct. The composition changes a little bit. And it would change the same if they were below a coal mine or a strip mall or EPA headquarters in downtown Philadelphia. They just change a little bit. This is the same federal government, folks, that in 2001, after spending about $16 million on individual scientific studies to try to determine if there was truly an adverse impact from coal, this same federal government came to the conclusion that coal operations do not cause significant degradation. And that's an absolute critical word when you're talking about the Clean Water Act and the Surface Mining Act. Mining activities don't cause significant degradation of waters of the United States. This same federal government now wants you to believe that what you do to make a living, to support your family and your communities is devastating the country. And as far as these being 38-year-old regulations that have never been touched, let me tell you, the same agency, the Office of Surface Mining, from 2004 to 2008, changed the very same set of rules. The surface mining program has been under constant change, additions as science and technology have advanced. To give you another example, reforestation. We now know better how to grow trees at coal mines. The federal regulations have been changed to reflect that. Now if we go to the next slide. Folks, here's what's really going on. This is about politics. And in this particular case, OSM screwed up and made their intentions well known in the Federal Register. If you all can read that, and I hope you can, that is a direct quote, that is a direct picture taken from the Federal Register document when these changes were first announced in 2010. There's OSM admitting that we had already made up our minds to change the Surface Mining Act and the rule after the change of administration. Change of administration. on the 20th of January. It's about politics. It's not about science. It's about OSM now becoming a willing participant in this administration's war on coal. And this, whereas the EPA regulations that Chris and Bill talked about earlier targeted our customers, where we sell our product to make reliable and inexpensive electricity, this attacks us right at home. If you can't get it out of the ground, then this administration has no more coal problem that their friends in the Sierra Club don't like anymore. Marilyn, if you'll go to the next slide. Just to give you an idea, here are some of the detail, and I don't want to belabor this too much. Here is one of the major issues with what's being done to the Surface Mining Act. The Surface Mining Act has a concept of material damage. Material damage means what you would expect it to, an adverse impact to a stream or an area that is irreversible and affects that stream's ability to support aquatic life, the bugs, the fish, other things. Under the rules proposed, material damage means any change to the biological condition of an intermittent or perennial stream. And that's somewhat misleading too, because even though they try to explain it away, OSM says that ephemeral streams have the same impact, or ephemeral streams feed intermittent perennial streams, so they're just as important. Now folks, on its surface, that doesn't look too bad. Biological condition. To sensible people, biological condition would mean fish. It would mean the quality of the water. In the hands of the people at EPA and this administration's OSM, that means the shift in the bug population that we talked about. You had 6 mayflies when you went in, now you only have 4. You have had or caused material damage. Malik, if you'll go to the next slide. Even more disturbing, despite OSM's assurances, repeated assurances that this is about Central Appalachian and Southern West Virginia large-scale surface mining. This rule takes the same definition, the same biological condition standard, and extrapolates that out to any potential stream impacts that may result from underground coal mining. Now, you all that operate underground, and particularly those of you all that work in longwall mines, know that there are occasions because of geology and because of cover that when you mine a panel or you mine a section, you're going to impact a stream. What the rule says, you have to restore it to look, smell, behave, and have the same insect population that it did before. Folks, again, I want to go back to what I said before. Man can't exist on this earth without having some kind of impact or effect or change on his environment. This rule is essentially a no-change standard. Don't ever change it, and don't even, while you're at it, don't even try. I'll get to that in just a second. Alec, we'll go to the next slide, please. Here's another issue that really concerns those of us that have to deal in the regulatory world. There is a new definition in the rule of something called a parameter of concern. Parameters of concern are anything that the federal government or one of these environmental activist groups that have gotten rich suing us for what we do, particularly in Southern West Virginia. Is there the likelihood that a coal mine at some point may cause a discharge, a water discharge, of a parameter of concern? Well, what the hell does that mean? What is a parameter of concern? We know what water quality standards are because they're enacted by the West Virginia legislature. We know what water quality standards are because EPA has to approve them. A parameter of concern is relatively undefined. That means, again, the Sierra Club can tell you what it means, or OSM, or worse still, a federal judge in reaction to some Sierra Club lawsuit will tell us what a parameter of concern means. Remember just a few minutes ago I said this is a no change at all, ever, don't even try standard? Unless a mining company can prove that there is no credible evidence that the mine at some point, whether it's surface or underground, may have a discharge of a parameter of concern, the Mining Regulatory Authority cannot approve that permit. Folks, no credible evidence. Again, what does that mean? No credible evidence. To reasonable people, I think we can define that. To OSM or to EPA or to the Sierra Club, I'm not sure we know what no credible evidence means. That's the no change at all. Don't ever bother trying standard. Mallory, if we go to the next slide. Folks, this is just a little more detail here just to give you an idea of how ridiculous some of these provisions are. Valley fill construction, those of you that work on surface mines in West Virginia know that we have the science of constructing valley fills for excess overburden. We've got that down. We know how to do that. We're the best at the world at doing that. What the rule says is what you've been doing all these years is wrong, even though those structures are probably some of the most stable engineered structures man has ever built in the world. What you're doing is wrong. You can only build valley fills in 4-foot lifts. Anybody that's ever looked at the economics of a mine in West Virginia knows that will probably make surface mine reserves. It'll probably drive up the cost margin to where it's no longer profitable. Here's a great one. I love this. You know, you open a surface mine where you face up a deep mine entry where you need to sink a shaft for a longwall panel. You're going to have to go in and cut the trees, clear the topsoil, to start the drill, or to cut the road to get to the surface mine. You know the trees and everything that you have to cut to get them out of the way? OSM says you have to salvage all that material, every single bit of it. Now that's not too bad. If you have an operating surface mine and you have unreclaimed areas or generally flat areas, you can put that material on. But what if it's a brand new operation? What are you supposed to do with it? Take it to Walmart? See if they'll let you stick it on the parking lot for about 9 years until you're done mining so you can put it all back? Guys, this is enough. The last one there that you see in red on the slide is just about as deadly as the 6,000-page rule. This provision alone would be deadly. Despite the guidance of Congress when it passed the Surface Mining Act, that the states are in control of their mining regulatory program and there are administrative appeals processes and a way to redress if one of these groups thinks a permit's been issued the wrong way. This rule hands final approval for a mining permit over to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. I don't know how many of you all have ever dealt with the Endangered Species Act, but that is an absolute showstopper because Fish and Wildlife Service has never met a project, much less a coal mine, that they liked. I'm sure you all have heard horror stories about 8-lane highways in the state of California stopped dead in their tracks over an endangered fruit fly. We have the same issue in West Virginia. We have it with bats and with certain crayfish that wouldn't exist here probably without coal mining, but because they're endangered, you can't get your permit. Mallory, next slide. Just a couple of things to remember. Again, don't even try mining that reserve. Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to put yourself at that kind of risk from both a financial or an environmental responsibility standpoint? And the most offensive thing, well, not the most offensive thing, one of the most offensive things to me, the parameter of concern language, where you can get stuck with water quality discharge standards that aren't water quality standards. Folks, the whole reason that's being done is because when EPA tried this very same thing on surface mining in southern West Virginia, those of you all that operate on surface mines in southern West Virginia know this all too well. We've been dealing with EPA since the day this administration walked in the door. The only reason why OSM is doing this is so they can get us to the conductivity and the TDS standards that they wanted since the day this thing started. Here's the difference. If they do it in the context of the Surface Mining Control and Reclamation Act, it just applies to coal mining. They don't have to worry about sticking their buddies in the natural gas industry with a conductivity standard. They don't have to worry about giving their buddies in the solar and windmill industry a conductivity standard, because even they know that conductivity is not an accurate measurement of water quality and any disturbance will lead to an increase in net discharge. Here's the other thing that really amazes me. As risky and as dangerous as this is for surface mining, this is going to have a greater impact on underground coal extraction because it hits underground mining twice. As you all know, you have to build coal refuse fills and coal refuse impoundments because you clean the coal that you take out from an underground mine. You got to have some place to put that stuff. Well, the same rules that would apply to a valley fill apply to a coal refuse structure. We've also already mentioned the impacts relative to potential stream subsidence. So underground mining gets it twice. The coal refuse, so you can't clean the coal that you brought out from underground, so you can't sell it to your customer. Then you can't mine under the stream because you might change the stream's character. Folks, the estimates there at the bottom of that slide, I want to emphasize how rough that is. That's based on a couple of earlier versions of this rule and the fact that it's 6,000 pages and we're still not completely through it and we still don't completely understand exactly what it's going to do to us. We think between 70 to 85% of of the underground reserves that are in West Virginia will potentially be impacted, if not sterilized, by this proposed rule. Now, I have to qualify that a little bit. With respect to longwall mining, that number, I'm going to mine the reserve. And we think, again, just from a very cursory review, that this is going to impact about 85 to 95% of the surface mining production, excuse me, that remains active within the state. Mallory, next slide. Folks, I realize this is a horrible picture. It was very hard to reproduce this map on a PowerPoint slide. But what you have before you there, the yellow, this is a longwall mine. This is one section, series of panels in a longwall mine. Actually, this one's in Pennsylvania. The yellow areas on the left that you see there are the original extraction areas for the panels. When you take the stream protection rule and apply it to the same operation, see how the little yellow areas turn pink or purple or whatever they are, probably red? That's the area over top of intermittent or perennial streams that you're not going to be able to mine because of the stream protection rule. So again, those of you all with underground mining experience and a longwall system experience, how many times do you think that company is going to be able to jump that panel and move it around to miss that stream? How many times do you think it's going to be profitable to sink new shafts and new slopes to allow access because you had to jump the ephemeral stream over top of the longwall panel? You all know that's not going to happen. Mallory, next slide. That's all I have, folks. I'll be around all evening if you need to ask questions. But again, thank you for being here. You have no idea how important it is that OSM